What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And UFC 302 just took place yesterday, and there was a lot of weird, shitty, controversial judging that actually took place. It was actually funny because there were no robberies that took place on the card. Like, there was no fight where the wrong fighter won, but there was many fights where a fighter that clearly did not win got a scorecard from one of the judges saying they should win. The notable examples, obviously, Strickland versus Costa, that's the main one. We all know this fucking retard scored it 4-1 for fucking Paulo Costa. Absolute dumbass. And then also, that same judge, David Torelli, scored Andre Lima versus Mitch Raposo, 29-28 for Mitch Raposo, where the other two judges scored at 30-27 for Lima. And then a different judge scored Kopolov versus Almeida, 29-28 to Almeida. So there was some bad judging on UFC 302, but it's really just a symptom of a bigger problem, to be honest. Because judging in the UFC and in MMA in general, in combat sports overall, let's be honest, is just not good. It's in a fucking awful place. There's just shocking calls, terrible scorecards week after week. It seems like we can't go a single week anymore of watching UFC without, maybe not a robbery taking place, but like at least a weird scorecard where you'll hear the decisions read and you'll hear a split decision, or you'll hear like a clear 2-1 fight and and the judges score it 29-28, 29-28 and 30-27. You're like, that was not 30-27. And I think a lot of those ones, the minor ones where, a guy won 3-0 when he should have only won 2-1, or a guy winning 2-1, but then another guy gets a split scorecard. I think a lot of people kind of gloss over it and don't really care on all these Apex cards and these minor fight night shows. But the big issue happens, and when people start actually talking about it, because even though there were two awful scorecards that took place before Strickland Costa, the real talk was brought up when that final scorecard was brought out for Costa versus Strickland, and one of the judges scored it 4-1 for Paulo Costa, which is absolutely an indefensible scorecard. There is no way that you can have that fight anything less than 49-46 Strickland. I scored it 50-45, Sean. 49-46, Sean, is defensible. 48-47 is you're majorly reaching, but I can maybe see it if you think that Strickland's not doing any damage, maybe. But no, it's still wrong. 48-47 Costa, we're reaching into robbery. That would have been, even if it was just 48-47 Costa, that is complete robbery territory there. That is a worse decision than any other fight. That it would have been a worse decision than any other fight that's taken place this year, in my opinion. That would have been a worse robbery than what people said, Usyk versus Pantoja was. If you thought that was a robbery, Strickland versus DDP, that wasn't even a robbery. But if you'd given this fight even 3-2 to Costa, that's a robbery. But the fact that one judge gave it 4 rounds to one and gave each of the first 4 rounds to Paulo Costa, when in my opinion, he didn't win any of them. And if he was going to get one, it was maybe the first. And that's it, in my opinion. He really didn't have that much success in the middle rounds, and he was winning the 5th, but then Sean clearly won it at the end in my eyes. But yeah, that's really when the issues get brought up, and the robbery talks will get brought up in close championship fights when it's not even a robbery. People were saying robbery for a bit after Islam Volk won. People say robbery after... They were saying robbery after Strickland Duplessis. They were saying robbery after, Adesanya Whitaker too. There's been so many fights. We're going to go through a bunch of scorecards in the video today. I'm also going to be singling out judges. We ain't just talking about examples. I'm fucking honing in on these motherfuckers, and I'm naming them, and I'm showing all the fucking dumb scorecards that they've done. Look, I don't have a fucking hour, so I'm not going to be running through. I've not done the research to find every single bad scorecard ever. These, in my opinion, are the more egregious ones. Look, there's a couple here that you'll be like, that's not too bad. So yeah, there are some here that aren't awful, but I've kind of collected multiple from some of the same judges to kind of give you an idea, because when you hear Bruce Buffer say, and the judges scoring octagon side are this, and this, you'll be like, I've heard that name a bunch of times, and every single judge that you will hear read out as sitting octagon side, the judges scoring these contests are going to be in this video. I don't think there's one that I can remember that I've missed out here. I've got Sal D'Amato, I've got Chris Lee, I've got David Torelli, I've got Doug Crosby, I've got everyone. And they've all had some absolute stinker scorecards. And it is just crazy. I know I'm yapping on here. I'm going to get to the actual real content of the video in a second. But it is just crazy how the entire community as a whole can all agree, unless you're MMA Joey and a fat retard who thinks that Costa won. That's a clip that does exist as well, by the way. Go watch it on my... I'll put it at the end of the video too, but go check it out on my Twitter as well, Left Lane MMA. I posted a clip of him. He's got to be trolling, because he was more surprised to hear 50-45 Strickland than he was to hear 49-46 Costa. But it's just crazy that pretty much every non-retarded MMA community member, MMA fan, can all hear that scorecard and be like, what the fuck was that guy smoking? And I'm going to show a clip of Dana White in a second reacting to that. But it's crazy how every single week we all agree like this was a clear decision to him, that was clear 2-1 or clear 3-0, clear 4 rounds to 1 in a 5-round fight, like round 2 was to this guy, round 4 was to this guy. We can all clearly make that decision. Look, there's definitely some difference, like the verdict scorecards will show some... they will show some differential sometimes. They will show some conflict in terms of some people scored it for this guy, some people scored it for this guy. But I think at least every time when we bring up the robbery discussions in our community, and people are split down the middle, like it's like there are the occasional scorecards or the occasional victors given out that we will be like, we all are like, yes, complete robbery. But then there are some, and most of the fights that we end up hearing the word robbery thrown around are those fights where, like, I might think Strickland won and you might think Dricus won, and we can say robbery all we want, but we all recognize it's not a robbery. That's just the kind of code word for close decision that I disagreed with. But we can all agree that these are close fights. Like, we can all agree Pantoja versus Usyk was a close fight. We can all agree that Izzy versus Whittaker was a close fight. But these scorecards I'm going to be showing in today's videos are not close fights. These are indefensible scorecards. Or maybe there were close fights, but the scorecard given out was indefensible. The scorecard or the rounds that they scored the other way were not close. This was not a 50-50 fight. So yeah, I'm going to be going through that in today's video. I know I've yapped on for a little bit here, kind of giving some background, kind of giving my take on the judging criteria. I'll give my take on the judging criteria too, because I think a big problem, and in no way am I defending these judges, because they need to be held accountable and they need to be actually brought to the light and shown, and we need to we get their names, but we need them to fucking speak. We need to be able to actually understand from fucking David Torelli what this motherfucker was smoking when he scored that fight 4-1 for Costa. And we don't get to see that. But again, in no way am I defending the judges, but the criteria is also fucking retarded, because if you look through it, I'm not going to show it on the screen because it's just a whole bunch of fucking blocks of information that I can't be fucked reading out, but it's along the lines of damage trumps all, immediate damage trumps cumulative damage, effective grappling is advances in position, and contributions towards the end of the fight. So lay and pray does not mean fuck all. And that is, so that's where you do see some difference in the scorecards, where optically, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, this person was on top for 4.5 minutes. But if someone lands a couple big shots, then one judge might be like, oh, technically I'm meant to do this. So there is too much room for interpretation in the criteria, which is a big problem. I think we can all agree on that. There's way too much interpretation, because you'll hear people going, on damage. There shouldn't be these discussions. There should not be discussions of, on damage, this guy won or this. It should be clear. We should not have to leave a victor up and who gets double their money and who misses out on half their purse. We should not be leaving that up to 3 random fucking dudes that we don't even really know sitting cage side that just decide, and they get the authority to give someone a win and take a world title or give a world title to someone, or rob someone of half their purse, prevent someone from making extra money that they would have made if the correct decision was made. Why are we giving this authority, and why are we leaving this interpretation up to 3 random people with a criteria that is extremely flawed and extremely up for interpretation? I think that needs to change, definitely. We need to make it crystal clear, spot on. There needs to be examples. There needs to be word for word. If a fighter scores 4.5 minutes of control time and does not land any significant damage or have any grappling that contributes towards an effective change in position or a finish of the fight, if you stay in guard the whole time, this is what it needs to say. If you stay in guard the whole time and do not land any fucking shots apart from some pitter-pat shots to the body, and the person rocked you on the feet in the first 30 seconds and you held them down for the last 4 minutes. That needs to clearly be stated in the criteria. Does the person who landed the big shots on the feet win, or does the person who takes them down and holds them there for 4 minutes win? We need to know these scenarios. Obviously, there is still going to be differences. There's still going to be close fights on the feet, but it should be a lot clearer than it is, and there shouldn't be this much differential. We should not be seeing 50-45 one way and 49-46 another, and that's not even to do with the criteria. That's just retarded judges. But we should not, like Dricus versus Strickland, should be a fight where the criteria outlines who should win. It should not be up for like I think he did a little bit more, so I'll give it to him. We should not have that. So that's my early rant, but now I'm going to go through a bunch of scorecards that I think are just absolutely atrocious. You guys leave some other decisions in the comments if you think they are awful as well that I've missed out. But make sure to watch the rest of the video, because some of these scorecards, and we will be exposing judges, individuals. I'm not just going to be saying one judge scored at this in this fight. I'm showing their name. I'm showing which round they scored. I'm showing all of it. So yeah, let's get into the... Also first, here's what Dana White had to say, and then afterwards I'm going to just go through all the scorecards. So let's get into it.
Well, I think that wasn't weird. It was fucking nuts is what it was. It's insane. That guy should never ref a big fight again. They should kick him back down to the minor leagues and let him work on his judging. It's unbelievable. I mean, how anybody who isn't an absolute fucking lunatic could call that fight a split decision. I don't even know what to say about that. It's insane. That guy shouldn't be judging big fights.
What did you think of?
So this is the scorecard from Dave Torelli, who scored the first 4 rounds for Costa. Again, I'm not going to repeat all the same shit I just said. The man is clearly retarded. It literally says in the, if you look up what are the qualifications to become a Nevada State Athletic Commission referee, it literally says they have to pass an eye exam from an optometrist every year. I think we need to get David Torelli's eye exam checked and updated. But that is the scorecard there, completely atrocious. As well, you can see Sean Strickland versus Cannonier's scorecard. That was when two judges scored at 49-46 for Cannonier and one scored at 49-46 for Sean. And again, that was a close fight. This was not like the Costa fight. That was actually a debatable decision. I gave it to Strickland. But also, it is debatable. But again, we should not have this fucking flawed criteria where judges can go 4 rounds to 1 for a fighter in opposite directions. Shouldn't happen. We should be able to know who wins fights and be certain at the end of the fight that the right guy's going to get his hand raised. Also, Hermansson's scorecard, absolutely fucking shocking. When 2 judges scored at 50-45 for Sean, one scored at fucking 48-47 for Hermansson. You can see, I'm going to show a picture. This was Sean Strickland's face on the screen when he fucking saw that scorecard, or when he heard that scorecard, I should say. Absolutely abysmal behavior. David Torelli had another very fine scorecard. He is scoring at 2 rounds to 1 for Raposo when the other 2 judges scored at 30-27 to Lima. Also turned in a 4-1 scorecard for Pantoja against Erceg. I think we can all disagree with that. Another one, nothing major, but he scored Evloev Lopez 30-27 for Evloev. Personally, I disagree with that scorecard. Not a crazy bad one, but I actually couldn't find... He appears to not have judged like heaps of fights, like big notable like split decision fights recently or anything like that. So there weren't a heap of like bad ones I could find, but he does have, if you go back, there's like Reddit threads and stuff. He's got some way back in the day, but I'm talking more modern ones just because a lot of people watching this video aren't going to know fucking fights from 2005 or some shit. But yeah, those are some bad scorecards in my opinion. But let's look at some other judges. Also, the Kopylov Almeida card for the scorecard from this card, abysmal behavior. Both of those cards are wrong. It was 29-28 Kopylov. I don't know how either of them turned in those scorecards, but Sal D'Amato, we know who he is. You know the name. You don't love the name. But yeah, he's turned in some fucking awful scorecards too. He turned in this abomination where he fucking scored round 2 for Christian Rodriguez, despite the fact that he landed like 3 strikes on the feet and got ragdolled the whole round. So that was one of his better ones. Another judge also scored it for Rodriguez, but I'm singling out Sal. Also turned in a 4-1 scorecard for Ngannou against Gane. Also scored Della Hafez for Hafez. Brian Miners had some stinkers too. Gave a 30-27 to Tabitha Ricci against Lupi Godinez. Very iffy scorecard there as well. Also on that same card, he scored Andrade versus Dern. Round 1 for Mackenzie Dern when she got dropped fucking multiple times in the round. Also didn't score Vyacheslav Borshev versus Sadyukov a 10-8 in round 2. Was like the only person on planet Earth not to do that. So that all three of those fights were all on that one card, UFC 295, so he had a fucking stinker there. Also turned in a 30-27 Hernandez against Damon Jackson. Atrocious scorecard. What the fuck is he doing? Get him some glasses. So Brian Minor, you're on the fucking list of awful judges. We know Sal D'Amato's on there too, obviously. Fucking Ngannou gone 4-1 for fucking Ngannou. Get his cock out of your mouth, bro. He's not gonna let you hit. But let's look at some more judges. Manuel Cordero, whatever this guy's name is, scored McKee versus Njokuani for McKee. I don't know what he was doing there. Chris Lee, you've heard the name many times, scored Emmett versus Cater for Emmett. Scored Dos Anjos versus Felder for Felder. When fucking Felder looked shocked at the decision. That was great. So this is what I'm talking about. Opposite 30-27 scorecards. Another one from Derek clearly scored Burial versus Curtis for Burial. Clearly also scored Nzedruku versus St. Preux for Nzedruku. Also scored Edgar versus Munoz for Edgar. Ben Cartledge scored Moreno versus Pantoja 4-1 to Moreno. All scored Roundtree Jacoby for Roundtree. Also, this Donny, Paul Sutherland turned in some awful scorecards. 30-27 for Vittori against Delizzi. 30-27 for Morales against Duncan. And then this Fazeev Gaethje scorecard with a 10-8 in round 3, but then scoring round 1 and 2 for Fazeev. The round 1 and 2 for Fazeev I don't hate. The 10-8 is just weird. Let's look at Doug Crosby because he's also a pioneer of the game. But yeah, Sutherland, Ben Cartledge, Chris Lee, fucking all of you, you're on the list as well. Sal D'Amato, everyone. You're added to the list with this other fucker that scored at 4-1 for fucking Costa. You're all on the list, mate. No one's safe. Crosby, pioneer of the game. Obviously, Pimlet Gordon scored it for Pimlet. Edgar versus Penn scored it 5-0 to Frankie Edgar. This whack-ass scorecard with Hendricks and Lawler. This one here, I forgot what the scorecard was, but when Dariush literally looked shocked that he got the win, Doug Crosby was a descending judge in that one too. Also, one of the judges that robbed our boy Li Jing Liang, this is a new one. This is the fucker that scored Jones-Reyes for Jones 4 rounds to 1. So that was shocking. Also, this retard that probably had his crown taken of the worst scorecard, I think he delivered. He had one of the worst scorecards ever banked in with that 3-2 scorecard for Cheeto Vera against Sanhagen. But I think fucking old mate took it from him with that scorecard for fucking Costa. So fair play, mate. You took the crown if that's what you were aiming for. This weird-ass scorecard too. 4 rounds to 1 for Moreno in the rematch against Royval. Mike Beltran scored Izzy versus Whitaker 4-1 to Adesanya. We know that fight was a robbery. Michael Bell scored Holland versus Della for Della. And then Ron McCarthy scored Delizzi versus Amavov as a draw when I didn't even give Delizzi a round and I thought it was fucking 49-44. And this motherfucker gave Delizzi 2 rounds and didn't give Amavov a 10-8 in round 1. So not an awful scorecard, but still pretty bad. So this is what I mean. How many fucking judges have I just gone through? Sal D'Amato, Chris Lee, Ben Cartledge, Junichiro Kamijo, the fucking guy that scored it for fucking Costa against Strickland, Doug Crosby, all these fucking guys. There's so many more that I forgot. This Sutherland motherfucker. Ben Cartledge, I think I forgot to mention maybe. So many refs. So many judges, sorry. These are the guys that you hear the names. Every single fucking card. I want you guys to start paying attention. When you hear the 3 judges scoring Octagon side R, you're going to hear one of these names. If you hear 3 names called and none of them are here, come back to this video. If you ever fucking hear a dodgy scorecard again, come back to this fucking video. Scroll through really quickly and you'll find some of their dodgy ass scorecards. Maybe I should actually do a post. Let me know in the comments. Should I just post on my community post so it's easy to come back to all the names of the judges and some of the worst scorecards they've turned in, just so we can keep track. There needs to be a fucking 3 strikes and you're out policy or some shit for these motherfuckers. I swear to God, because you can't they need to be they need to be removed of work for a week or 2 or a month or something like that. You can't just let these guys casually go. And you know the guy, I know people don't watch Bellator because you're not retarded, obviously intelligent minds like myself. We don't need to waste our time with Bellator because it's an inferior promotion. But those that do, and I did see this scorecard, scored Sabatello Stotts. I think it was, one of them scored at 5-0 to Sabatello, I'm pretty sure. And that was Crosby. And then the next day, he rocks up and scores Pimlet Gordon for Pimlet. When on MMA decisions, no media members, I don't think, maybe one or 0 media members scored Pimlet versus Gordon for Pimlet. And then Doug Crosby, amongst two others, was a unanimous decision for Paddy Pimblett. Retardation at its finest. But look how many fucking judges there are that are just turning in awful scorecards. This is not the same one or two every week that turns in all the bad ones. And if it was, then it's be like, okay, easy fix, fire all of them. And people are saying every time a judge makes a bad scorecard, fire him. And I don't disagree. But then we need to fucking do something about this judging, because it's not just the judges, even though they are retarded. It's like the people. Look, we all acknowledge that all of these cards are retarded. If you disagree with any of these scorecards in the comments, if you want to go in there and tell me, hey, Left Lane, I scored Penn versus Edgar, 5-0 for Edgar, be my guest. You're just letting us all know you have an IQ of less than 60. But that's what I mean. There's so many fucking bad scorecards. I think another big thing I wanted to mention, Sean Strickland, this is more of a thing to do with his style, I think. But also, the judges might be out to get him. Like, let's be honest, maybe Communist Canada they got to him and they put some money in their pockets and said, yo, don't give this guy the decision. But how many fucking Strickland fights are splits or close decisions? Like, Hermansson split, even though it shouldn't have been. Cannonier split. Dricker split. This Costa fight split. There's so many fucking split decisions for this fucker. He actually can't go without getting a dodgy fucking scorecard thrown in there. But let me know in the comments which of these is the worst scorecard, because some of these are atrocious. Where you're seeing 30-27s alternate ways. We're seeing 49-46s alternate ways. We're seeing a 50-45 one way and a 49-46 the other. We're seeing fucking Cheeto versus Vera. One judge scores at 3-0 or 3-2 to Vera. Like, what do we're seeing scorecards for. I think it's another big thing I want to talk about. Championship privilege. Pantoja got a 4-1 against Urseg. Jones got a 4-1 against Reyes. Izzy gets 4-1s against Whitaker. Got a 4-1 against Romero as well. I'm not going to talk about, obviously, Victoria and Cannonier, because those were fine decisions. But Romero and Whitaker, both of those fights, in my opinion, arguable robberies. And definitely the 4-1 scorecards were bad. But yeah, this is what I mean. These 4-1 scorecards to the champions when it's arguably 3-2 or could go to the challenger, and it's like, oh nah, it wasn't even close. That's an easy 4-1 to John Jones. Like, what are you doing? We still agree that unanimous decision, by the way, where all three scorecards were in favor of John Jones. We all agree that all of them are wrong. And then also Ngannou versus Garn too. 49-46 scorecard for Ngannou in their unanimous decision. It's weird. It's like they're conditioning us to you're less likely to say robbery if it's called unanimous. Maybe the alarm bells go off more if it's a split. But if you go unanimous, they go, oh, maybe I was just tripping. The judges must have seen it right since they all scored it the same way. It's like, no. They can all still be wrong. A split decision, doesn't have to be split to be a robbery. We see a bunch of unanimous decision robberies as well. But that's what I mean. Pantoja, Ngannou, Izzy, Jones, all of these fuckers getting 4-1 scorecards in fights that they arguably lost 3-2. Or even in Urseg and Pantoja's case, arguably Urseg could have won 4-1 even on damage. This is what I mean. But we need to fucking even up the criteria. We need to make it more clear and really outline the extent of damage-based scoring, the extent of grappling effectiveness, or what it means for the criteria. And I know everyone's like, oh, the criteria says damage trumps all. And yes, it does. But half the time they fucking don't follow it. They pick and choose when to follow it. Against Urseg Pantoja, they went with the grappling control. With Jones fucking Reyes, I don't know what they fucking went with. They went with something. But Izzy versus Whitaker, they went with just range striking and no damage compared to effective grappling and actual shots being landed. So I don't know what they're doing. With Garn and Ngannou, they scored round 2. One of the judges scored round 2. Chris Lee, I think it was, or Sal D'Amato, I forget, scored round 2 for Ngannou when he did fuck all. He just looks menacing on the feet without landing anything. Go back and watch round 2 of Garn versus Ngannou. I'm pretty sure Ngannou landed nothing significant. And then in round 5, all three scored it for Ngannou because he lay on top of Garn the whole time, even though he did nothing on the feet and Garn almost heel hooked him. What's the extent of submissions? What's the extent of this? What's the extent of that? We saw a split scorecard for Oliveira versus Arman. How much do submissions mean? How much do submissions mean? How much does control mean if there's no damage? Because it's not meant to mean anything, but time and time again, you see scorecards where apparently it does. So I've gone on long enough. I've gone through a bunch of fucking awful scorecards in today's video. You know, you get the gist. I'm not breaking any news here. This isn't fucking crazy. Oh my god, Left Lane with an edgy take video. Really coming up with some crazy conspiracy here. Like, it's pretty fucking obvious the judging is shit. It needs to change. We need to do something about it. We need to fucking literally, like, suspend judges for like multiple weeks or a month or something like that, and have like if you do a bad scorecard, all right, buddy, take the rest of the night off. You're done for the night. It's like when they got those referees that were doing all the shitty, like, again, the ref that refed the BSD versus Zaleski fight, let him get beaten the fuck out of. They're like, all right, mate, you're done for the night. Take the night off. Go home. Do this with judges. If you hear this fucker scored Lima versus Raposo 29-28 for Raposo, you're done for the night, bro. Go home. You don't even get the chance to almost try and rob Sean Strickland and score the fight 4-1 for Costa. That's what we need to do. We need to, if you score an awful card, if it's just a close fight, I don't hate it. But if it's some random fucking women's MMA fight, who cares? But if you're scoring clear fights where you're just blatantly wrong, take the night off. Your head's clearly not in the game. You're not focusing. You're not seeing things right. Go home. Take a nap. You've probably got a headache. You're probably a bit tired. Just, you need to defog and come back a bit sharper next week. And then if you do it, if it's a weekly occurrence, if you are weekly turning in back-to-back-to-back awful scorecards once or twice every card, you should lose your job. You should not just be able to continue robbing people of their fucking money without any explanation and without any reason to be able to score the fight for who you do. So the judging's awful. That's it. Big rant in today's video. Generational rant from Left Lane. Drop a like if you enjoyed the rant. Drop a like if you agreed. Subscribe to the channel. Go follow my Instagram, Left Lane MMA. Go follow my Twitter or X, whatever the fuck it is, Left Lane MMA. All of that. Comment, subscribe, like, share the video. Let everyone know, follow my fucking channel, and I'm trying to get more subscribers than MMA Joey, because respectfully, it's an embarrassment that someone that scored the fight for Costa in MMA Joey has more subscribers than someone who clearly knows the criteria like myself. So I'm going to leave it at that, but peace out, guys. See you in the next one.
Split decision. 49-46 Costa. 50-45 Strickland? 49-46. Damn, they gave it to Strickland. That's bullshit. I don't think it's a brutal robbery, but Strickland didn't win that fight.
I don't know what the fuck this guy's doing.